Yeah, sure. Coach, how are you?
Hey, Varun.
I wanted to ask with the amount of obviously Mike Miller's there. There's a couple of a good chunk of former Maryland people at players at Charlotte now. From what you've seen, is there an offense similar to the scheme that you guys run here?
It's really hard to tell because, as I said at the press conference, I don't know how much they showed or how much they needed of their offense a week ago. I do know that, Biff's philosophy, Biff loves gap schemes and he loves to run the ball downhill, power, counter, create create walls and kicks. And so I would imagine that we expect to see some of the things that maybe they did at Michigan because of Biff's background there. Obviously, we have Josh here, and so he's familiar with Biff's philosophy offensively, just being up there with him together. And then with Mike being here, so we've got a lot of hypotheses about it, but we're going to have to kind of let it play out and be prepared for a little bit of everything. You like that word I made, huh? I saw you give me a little smirk.
Brandon, what do you got?
Yeah, so I don't know what's happening with the
Two
reaction.
hands up. A lot of
Yeah,
Yeah,
questions.
I don't know what's
you're
happening.
applauding. You're applauding us.
How are you doing? Yeah. So Roman talked on Tuesday kind of about the importance of pass blocking, how he's worked on improving that in practice. How much does that go into the usage of the running backs, especially with Littleton being sort of a bigger back? How big of an impact does that play in your usage of them?
Yeah, you know what? I don't necessarily think you have to be a big back to be a great pass protector. I mean, it's just about the explosiveness of of the back. Because I've had guys, I mean, Bruce Perry, who I had a chance to coach here at Maryland, was not a big guy. But when I think of pass protectors, Bruce was probably one of the better pass protectors that I've coached over the years, and including some big guys that were first round draft picks. And so I don't know if the size is as important. I think Twan, from a technical standpoint, because he's a dense guy, a really thick guy that has the ability to play with a lot of power, tends to show up. But for Roman, he has explosiveness, obviously, with his speed. And I think technically, some of the things that you need to do from a pass protection standpoint was something that we talked to him over the off season about. We always give our guys what I call prescriptions of things they got to do a little bit better, and that was one of the areas. And I know something that Roman has really focused his energy and effort in trying to improve.
We'll go to Taylor.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
What's up, Taylor? How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Looking at Octavian Smith and his kind of usage in the offense, he was third among wide receivers in snaps last Saturday. You lined him up in the backfield, got a handoff. Is he a guy who you're kind of looking to get as many touches as possible, maybe in some unique and different ways? And just kind of what do you envision his role looking like in the offense moving forward?
Yeah, I think what you saw with Ock a week ago from the amount of plays he played was a byproduct of one. He's still a young player that we're trying to continue to develop. And, once we scored there in the first drive of the second half and we got a lot of our starters out of there, I thought it was important to keep younger players like Octavian, who didn't maybe play a ton of snaps a year ago, give him as many as we could. Definitely because of his speed. Here's a guy I think that finished first or second in the state in 100 meters because of his speed, the things he's been able to do in the return game. Definitely one of those guys amongst our receiving core that has a diverse skill set. He was a quarterback in high school, so throws the ball well. Don't be surprised all of a sudden you see a trick play out of Octavian. Let's make sure we put that on social media, so that helps kind of have them play a little conservatively. But no, he has a unique skill set being a former quarterback, ball skills, speed. So definitely a guy that we continue to try to find ways to utilize the different ways he's capable of helping our team.
We'll go back to Varun.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Neo Avery. Didn't play in the first game, obviously. How do you see him fitting into that pass rush puzzle? Is he a guy that you see as like a impact player from day one, or is he someone that needs to kind of come along a little bit more?
Well, he is an impact player from day one for sure. We just don't know
Okay.
when day one is. We're still waiting to find out when day one is, but There's no doubt that he has that ability to be an impact player, especially in some of the areas that we need help, which is rushing the passer. And, as soon as he's ready and available, I would imagine he would become a impact player.
Did he bulk up over the offseason? I think his listed weight in high school and now it's pretty drastically different.
Yeah. Yeah, he put on maybe a freshman 15.
Okay. And then do you have an idea of like when day one could be? I mean, is it sometime near future or?
I would hope. I really don't know. A lot of this stuff I get told to me from the medical standpoint.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll go back to Brandon.
Yeah, coach, kind of building off what you said about Roman in terms of pass blocking. I know that in the second quarter against Towson, he had a holding penalty called back, but then on a couple blocks, I noticed that they kind of directly led to pass interference penalties on Towson, and then you guys scored touchdowns on both of those drives. So just kind of what do you look for when in terms of kind of evaluating a pass blocker when it comes to running backs?
The first thing is there's 3 phases to pass protection as a running back. One is closing the distance, meaning we want to make that block happen as close to the line of scrimmage out of our quarterback's lap as possible. Second thing you want to do is stop the charge or rush of the defender. And then the third thing is to mirror the movement. And so, when we break down the skill of pass protection, those are the 3 areas from a fundamental standpoint that we really work on. And, Coach Scott and those running backs have worked really diligently because we've got to keep our quarterback safe and out of harm's way as much as possible. And so to me, when we evaluate, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to make sure that within the fundamentals of the pass protection, that those three things are happening. And again, something we work on quite a bit.
We'll go to Ahmed.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you.
What's up, Ahmed? Good to see you as well, buddy.
Good to see you. Apologies to ask. I know Avante. I know he was not on the injury report last week. But I guess do you anticipate him potentially being available this weekend?
Yeah.
Or is it kind of a wait and see?
Yeah, we expect him to be. He is available this week. A week ago, obviously, coach's decision, but definitely hopes us that he's available and we can figure out a role and get him on the field here finally.
And before I pass you back to Varun, second question. Kellen Wyatt is second guy. I know he played. I believe it was in all but 2 games last year. Primarily as a Sam last year. This year we see him a lot more as a Jack. And I know you talked about the positional versatility on the offensive line, and you know outside backer. He's someone that you've seen that a little bit. Obviously through week 1, but just kind of from last year till now, maybe where have you kind of seen that biggest stride?
Yeah, I think Kellen ate his way to the Jack position. He come in at 220, 225, and you get into our weight room with Coach Davis and his staff, and he's put on some size, and he still has kept the ability to move. And Kellen's a football player. When you think of a guy that can kind of do everything, stop the run, rush the passer, be physical, drop into space, he's kind of that guy. And our Sams and Jacks are somewhat interchangeable the way we use them. And then when we get into our dime rabbits package, he's becomes basically a pass rushing defensive end from a stand-up position. So again, really diverse skill set, has the ability to play both, with the advent of the teams that don't utilize a bunch of tight ends, instead of the Sam who usually comes off the field for the nickel, instead of losing a really good player like him because they don't offer the personnel groupings that gets him on the field, having the ability to play both allows him to be able to help our team still as a pass rusher and as a Jack. Back to Varun.
Coach, it felt like there were a good chunk of free rushers coming at Talia and the quarterbacks later in the game during the Towson game. How did you feel the offensive line communicated, particularly with the center calling out the protections?
Yeah, I think we gave up 1 sack near the end of the game. Nolan Ray, freshman, they brought 6, the extra guy, and he blocked 1, but we've got to get the protection set there. As I've said before on the record, our A gaps, we got to be a little firmer in the A gaps because of our quarterback and how he plays. some of the things happen because of him extending plays. And you know what? We aren't built to protect for 5-6 second plays. It's just not normal. And so with Leah and his ability to extend plays, we just got to have some of the new guys that really their first time playing with Leah, understanding that this guy is going to find ways to extend it. Now, I'm working really hard with Leah to continue to develop him to understand it is okay to throw it away. It's okay if things come awry and all of a sudden somebody comes free, get yourself out of trouble, throw it away and play the next down. And so to minimize the amount of hits he takes, especially, you know, when he's outside of the pocket. One of the other things we got to do is really do a better job of pushing up into the interior part instead of floating outside the pockets. And again, we continue to work on it. Do we need to improve the firmness of the A and B gaps in our protection? Definitely. And as we continue to work through solidifying those best five, you know, the guys that'll play will be the guys that give us the best chance of doing just that.
When you talk about moving up into the interior, that's with Talia and his pocket movement, you're saying?
Yeah, Talia pushing up in the A and B gaps. You know, if all of a sudden a guy shows up in the backside B gap, escape inside instead of flushing. Because when you flush, the tackles are trying to, it's geometry. The tackles are trying to keep them outside. And when you flush the pocket, now you put yourself in harm's way instead of protecting yourself.
Gotcha. And then with the centers that you guys have been kind of rotating with Eric, Mike, and I think Corey played a little bit at center, does it make it a little bit tough, especially with two of those guys being new to this offense, with them trying to adjust the scheme, especially when you've got moving parts around them on the line?
No, not at all. That's why I got paid coaches to get that stuff taught. So not real difficult. You know, we ask a lot of our centers, guys like Eric Harris and Corey were here, obviously. Mike just getting here. The rotation for us is still trying to figure out who gives us the best chance to solidify the firmness in those interior gaps. And, you know, we've got a pretty good idea. We're still missing a couple of pieces from the O-line that we're hoping to return maybe this week, which would allow us to, again, move some people to the normal positions we've been practicing at. So, again, it's still a work in progress that we're getting better and better at making some decisions as to what are what five gives us the best chance.
I know Gottlieb is one of the pieces you're talking about. Who's the other?
Oh man, just look at that report. I give it to you 2 hours before the game. You'll figure it out.
There you go. Thanks, Coach.
No doubt.
Is everyone good? All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, man. It's a good